Let me talk real quick, okay? You gonna let me talk?
I ain't gonna let you talk.
No, you ain't gonna let me talk. Why you not gonna let me talk?
Because I'm not.
You tripping?
I ain't tripping.
Nah, you tripping. Off the door and you tripping.
Oh my God.
Nah, because you tripping. Move this out of here.
You ain't gonna do shit. You ain't gonna do shit. You better get over there. Get your over there, little girl.
A missing 14-year-old girl, a Tesla abandoned on a quiet street, and now, shocking new footage that changes everything we thought we knew about the case of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. For over a year, her disappearance haunted her family, her community, and countless people following her story online. And when her body was finally discovered, hidden in the frunk of a car belonging to rising music star David Burke, better known to fans as D4V'd, the questions only grew darker. Tonight we're pulling back the curtain on the official timeline, the newly uncovered Nest camera footage, and the strange silence from those closest to Celeste. Because this is not just a story about a missing teenager, it's about how secrets can fester in plain sight, and how the truth refuses to stay buried forever. But before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Don't forget to hit the like button if you want to see more deep dive true crime investigations like this. Share this video with others following Celeste's case so the conversation doesn't fade. And most importantly, subscribe so you don't miss any updates as new information comes out. Drop a comment below with your opinion on this case, and let us know where in the world you're watching from. Your voice matters in keeping Celeste's story alive. The story the public was first told seemed, at least on the surface, straightforward. In April of 2024, just after her 14th birthday, Celeste Rivas Hernandez was reported missing. According to her family, she had run away from home, and despite desperate searches and pleas for information, she never returned. For more than a year, she was officially listed as a missing person, another young face added to a database already overflowing with unsolved cases. To many, Celeste's disappearance felt like a tragedy that might never find resolution. Flyers were circulated, her name appeared across social media posts, and advocates for missing children added her to their growing lists of families waiting for answers. Some in her community whispered about what might have happened. Did she leave willingly? Was she taken? Or was there someone close to her who knew far more than they were admitting? For over 12 months, those questions hung heavy in the air. Authorities maintained their file on Celeste, but the trail had gone cold. Her family lived in limbo, grieving but without closure, fearing but without proof. And as time passed, the official story hardened into something almost static. Celeste had run away and no one knew where she was. That was the accepted truth, until new evidence shattered it completely. Everything changed on September 8, 2024, when neighbors came forward with footage captured by a Nest security camera. At first, it seemed like just another piece of surveillance in a neighborhood already crowded with cameras, but what the recording revealed rewrote the timeline of Celeste's disappearance entirely. In the video, a young girl can be heard arguing, her voice tense, cracking with frustration. Neighbors who reviewed the footage confirmed it was Celeste. The argument reportedly stemmed from what began as a prank but escalated into something much more serious.
Let me talk real quick, okay? You gonna let me talk?
I ain't gonna let you talk.
No, you ain't gonna let me talk. Why you not gonna let me talk?
Because I'm not.
You tripping?
I ain't tripping.
Nah, you tripping. Off the door and you tripping.
Oh my God.
Nah, because you tripping. Move this out of here.
You ain't gonna do shit. You ain't gonna do shit. You better get over there.
Her tone was unmistakable. This was not a child who had vanished without a trace months earlier. This was Celeste, back in her neighborhood, alive and very much still entangled in the lives of those around her. The timestamp on the footage made the revelation even more haunting. It showed that Celeste had returned home months after she was officially listed as missing. For a family who thought their daughter had disappeared forever, and for a community convinced she had slipped through the cracks of the system, this footage was undeniable proof that she was still there, hidden in plain sight. Suddenly, the narrative of a runaway lost to the unknown was shattered. Instead, new questions arose. Who was she with in the time she was unaccounted for? Why had she returned, and why had her reappearance gone unreported? Most chilling of all, how did she end up dead, locked inside the trunk of a car belonging to a man nearly a decade older than her? The Nest camera did more than provide evidence. It reignited the case. It proved that someone somewhere knew more than they had been willing to admit. And from that moment on, what once looked like a closed chapter became a living investigation, exposing cracks in the official story that can no longer be ignored. The next turning point came not from surveillance cameras or rumors online, but from something far more ordinary, a car left sitting too long on the side of the street. It was a Tesla, sleek and black, but abandoned in a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood. At first, it looked like nothing more than a case of a careless driver who'd left their vehicle unattended. But in reality, it was a silent tomb. Neighbors first noticed the Tesla on August 26, 2025. For days, it sat unmoved. On August 27th, parking enforcement issued a ticket. Then again, another ticket on September 3rd. Still, no one came forward to claim the car. Finally, on September 5th, the vehicle was towed away. It was only after that tow, when the car was inspected more closely, that the horrifying truth was uncovered. Inside the frunk, the small front trunk unique to Tesla models, was the decomposing body of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Police later confirmed she had been there for several weeks. The discovery landed like a shockwave, not only because Celeste had been found, but because of where she had been found. The Tesla was linked directly to music artist David Burke, known to millions of fans by his stage name, D4VD. For those unfamiliar, a frunk is a storage space in the front of the car, often overlooked in routine checks. To place a body there meant one thing clearly: someone wanted Celeste hidden. Someone made a deliberate choice to conceal her, betting on the hope that days, weeks, even months might pass before anyone looked inside. And that raises the chilling question: who left her there and why? The timeline of the abandoned car suggested knowledge, intent, and opportunity. This wasn't the random chaos of a runaway teen's disappearance. This was something calculated, something sinister. And the closer investigators looked, the more one name kept surfacing: David Burke. To understand why the discovery of Celeste's body inside David Burke's car shook the public so deeply, you need to know who he is. At just 19 years old, Burke had become a rising star in the music world. Performing under the name D4VD, he was known for moody, atmospheric tracks that had gained him millions of streams and a growing fan base worldwide. He was the type of artist who seemed destined to rise from underground favorite to mainstream sensation. But behind the carefully crafted image of a young star on the brink of stardom, whispers had already begun to circulate. Fans on social media claimed Burke had been in a relationship with Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a girl who was just 12 years old when their connection allegedly began. Screenshots of messages, shared photos, and online rumors tied the two together long before her disappearance became national news. If true, those allegations point to a disturbing imbalance of power: an older, celebrated musician entwined with a vulnerable child, and now, with Celeste found dead inside his vehicle, those whispers could no longer be ignored. To be clear, Burke has not been arrested. Police have not named him as a suspect. In the earliest days after the discovery, his representatives insisted he was fully cooperating with investigators, but as the weeks stretched on, authorities stopped confirming that detail. His silence, both personally and professionally, has only fueled speculation. No public statement about Celeste, no tribute, no acknowledgement even on the day she would have turned 15. For many, that silence speaks louder than words. Instead of a promising career defined by his music, Burke's name is now forever linked to a tragedy that demands answers. And the more investigators dig, the harder it becomes to separate David Burke, the artist admired by fans, from David Burke, the man whose car carried a terrible secret. As the case gained attention, speculation spread like wildfire online. Some claimed Celeste had been pregnant, others insisted she had been groomed, trafficked, or forced into silence. In the absence of clear answers, rumor began to fill the void, but investigators quickly moved to separate fact from fiction. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office delivered one of the first clarifications. Celeste was not pregnant, nor had she been at any point in the past year. Toxicology tests, however, were still pending, leaving open the possibility that drugs or poisoning might explain her sudden death. Those results could prove decisive in determining whether this was a case of homicide, overdose, or something more complex. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Police Department released statements that seemed at times to contradict one another. One spokesperson hinted strongly at homicide, while another suggested the only crime might be the concealment of Celeste's body. That raised even more questions. In California, concealing a body without evidence of direct involvement in the death can carry surprisingly light penalties. In fact, a first-time offender might face nothing more than probation. To the public, that sounded unthinkable. A teenage girl had been found dead in the car of a man nearly a decade older than her, and yet the law seemed to leave open the possibility that no one would face serious consequences. Was this simply a tragic accident that someone tried to cover up? Or was it evidence of something darker, a deliberate act hidden behind legal loopholes? At this point, speculation continued to battle with evidence. Online voices demanded justice. Families of other missing children pointed to Celeste's case as an example of how the vulnerable are often failed. And in the middle of it all, investigators remained tight-lipped, offering only pieces of the puzzle while the public tried desperately to assemble the whole picture. As if the case wasn't complicated enough, another figure soon stepped into the spotlight: Josh Marshall, David Burke's manager, His name first emerged when investigators linked a Tesla with matching plates back to him. The connection was enough to raise eyebrows, and before long, Marshall found himself having to defend his reputation. He denied everything. According to him, he had no role in Celeste's disappearance, no knowledge of her death, and only limited involvement with Burke outside of music business matters. But the way he chose to address the rumors made people uneasy. Instead of issuing a formal statement or cooperating openly with the press, Marshall posted a video on TikTok, brushing off the allegations in what many viewers felt was a dismissive, almost mocking tone. For a case involving the death of a teenage girl, that kind of response struck many as tone-deaf. Then came an even stranger twist, the mystery email. According to a private investigator close to the case, adults connected to Celeste had sent an email to Josh Marshall back in 2024, long before her body was discovered. The email allegedly contained warnings and evidence that Celeste was in danger, and it was said to have been forwarded directly to law enforcement. Marshall, however, flatly denied ever receiving such a message. If the email exists, it raises alarming questions. What information did it contain? Who sent it? And why wasn't immediate action taken? If it never existed, then why would a private investigator insist that it did and that it had been shared with police?
Well, I was happy to get that clarification that the car license plate traced back to management, not him as manager. So it was interesting to hear him say, hey, hold it, that's not my car. The jury's out on that, but I'll take him at his word for now until we know otherwise. I want to ask you about this mystery email. This is just so curious, though. It's an email that apparently was sent to Josh Marshall. Again, this is the manager of the singer, David. And it's sent by, quote, adults in Celeste's life after her final runaway in 2024. Or rather, not her final runaway, one of her runaways in 2024. The day after the email, Celeste returns home, almost as though the email gets to David and Celeste, and they're like, go on, they're on to us, you better go home, right? The private investigator we talked to about this said that there is proof that the email was sent. Do you know at all if the email was received?
Well, according to Josh Marshall, he did not get any type of email. And this is what I think really possibly triggered him to write this denial. He was just like, no, I never received any email. I have no knowledge. And this statement was actually made on a live stream that I did. And I think what happened was it just got clipped by different TikTokers and different content creators. And the headline here was, Josh Marshall knows. What does Josh Marshall know? And he's like, what are you guys saying? I don't know anything. So it felt like it was important to him to clarify this. However, when I saw this, I did go back to my source, the private investigator that we both know. And he's like, nope, I stand by this. I see it right here. I'm looking at it. And not only that, Ashley, he said that his source behind this email said
the lack of clarity only deepened suspicions and added another layer of intrigue to an already tangled case. With Marshall denying involvement, Burke staying silent, and investigators refusing to confirm or deny key details, the truth seemed to slip further and further away. But one fact remained undeniable: Celeste was gone, and the people surrounding her were either unwilling or unable to explain why. As of now, the case of Celeste Rivas Hernandez remains painfully unresolved. Her body has been returned to her grieving family, allowing them at least the dignity of a proper burial. But the answers they deserve, the truth about what happened to their daughter, are still out of reach. Toxicology reports expected to shed light on the cause of death have yet to be finalized. Without them, investigators are stuck between competing theories. Was this a homicide, an accidental overdose, or something else entirely? Meanwhile, the contradictions in law enforcement statements have only fueled public frustration. On one hand, officials have hinted at foul play, suggesting that Celeste may have been murdered. On the other, they've implied that the only criminal act might have been concealing her body. For a family desperate for justice and for a community watching closely, that lack of clarity feels like another wound. What makes this case even more chilling is the silence. David Burke, the man whose car contained Celeste's body, has not spoken a word about her. He has not acknowledged her death, her disappearance, or even the day she would have turned 15. His music remains online, his career technically still alive, yet his name is now forever shadowed by this tragedy. To many, that silence feels like abandonment not only of Celeste, but of the responsibility owed when someone so young, so vulnerable, ends up dead in your vehicle. Whether or not Burke is ultimately charged, his refusal to speak has left a gaping hole in the narrative, and until that silence is broken, suspicion will only continue to grow. The public is left with fragments: a girl who returned home months after vanishing, a Tesla abandoned for weeks with her body inside, a rising star unwilling to acknowledge her memory, and a system that seems unsure of how to deliver justice. For now, Celeste's case is still open, still active, but no closer to the closure her family so desperately needs. When we step back and look at the bigger picture, the story of Celeste Rivas Hernandez is as haunting as it is heartbreaking. A 14-year-old girl, missing for more than a year, only to be found lifeless in the most unthinkable place, the frunk of a car tied to someone she once trusted. The Nest camera proved she was alive long after we thought she was gone. The abandoned Tesla revealed the grim truth of where her story ended, and the silence from those around her, from her alleged boyfriend to his inner circle, leaves more questions than answers. Was this negligence? Was it concealment? Or was it something far more sinister? Until the full truth comes out, Celeste's story will remain a wound that refuses to heal. But one thing is certain: her life mattered. She wasn't just another missing person file or another name in a database. She was a daughter, a friend, a child with dreams, and she deserved so much more. If you found this breakdown informative, please take a moment to support this channel. Hit the like button so more people can see this case. Share the video with anyone following Celeste's story so the conversation continues. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more deep dive true crime coverage, because these stories deserve to be told and they deserve to be remembered. Finally, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the Celeste case? Do you believe this was a tragic accident? Or do you see evidence of something darker at play? Comment your opinion down below, and let us know where in the world you're watching from. Your voice keeps this conversation alive, and together we make sure Celeste's story is not forgotten.